What's up, model gangsters? It's a bright sunny day out here at Rube Goldberg Enterprises, and as you guys know, I'm a total tool whore. Love me some tools, and I will try just about any of them once, as long as I think it offers a better result, energy savings, time savings, whatever. I believe in tools as an investment because they, if they do their job, they return the goods to you in spades down the road. So, with that in mind, I have been pretty interested in something that has been getting a lot of attention on the old interwebs and the model making forums and groups lately, and that is the thinnerline circle cutter. And you just about have to be living under a rock not to have heard of this thing yet. So I finally have mine, as you can see, and it's time for a review. So let's take a look, see what it's all about. All right, now as always, there's a little bit of a story as to how I ended up with this thing at this particular moment. As you can see, I'm working on the Heller 1/24th scale Massey Ferguson tractor, and it does not include any masks of any kind. And that's a problem for the rear wheels because you absolutely cannot get away with assembling the wheels after you paint them, at least not without some serious damage, because they go in really tight. And the back, there are two pieces, back and front, that have to be glued together. Anyway, so obviously I needed some masks. Now, what I had on hand was this thing, this X-Acto circle cutter. And I've used this thing in the past and I've managed to get by with it, but quite frankly, it's just awkward trying to hold it correctly, at least for me with my, clumsy hands, and spin it around or turn the material around and try and cut a good precise circle. It's just difficult, and I really wasn't looking forward to trying to do that. So the thinnerline circle cutter seemed like the perfect alternative. So because a company called Shadow Hobbies is selling these things, and I guess I should back up. They've previously only been available off of a website called uuorder.com, which is apparently some type of, it's based somewhere in Asia, I think maybe Singapore, and it's kind of the equivalent of Amazon. And that was the only place that you could get these things. So this company called Shadow Hobbies apparently was importing them and retailing them off of their website. But when I looked 2 or 3 weeks ago, they said out of stock for the next 2 weeks. And I didn't want to wait that long. So I decided to go to the UU Order website, and even though it's really goofy, it's it's clunky, and when I was done, I wasn't even totally sure that I was going to get a cutter and a blade with it. But I went ahead and clicked the order button, even though it is expensive. These things sell for about $40 or $50, and if you order it off of UU Order, it's like $25 in shipping. So it's not cheap at all. But again, I just felt like it was the right tool and that I would be able to make use of it a lot down the road. So anyway, oh wow, I wish you guys could see this. I'm looking out the window of my shop, and a family of quail just walked by. Mom, Pop, and about a dozen little tiny quail chicks. Super cool. Sometimes it's fun living out in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, back to the story. So, I ordered it, and weeks went by, and I got no updates of any kind. No notifications that it had shipped, nothing. No responses to my inquiries as to why I hadn't gotten any notifications. So I finally decided yesterday that I was going to have to give in and try it to use this thing. In spite of my best attempts, I just struggled to get a cutout that was exactly the right size. So, in a fit of frustration, and having also already checked the Shadow Hobbies website again and seeing that they still say 2 to 3 weeks, I called the vinyl sign cutters in my little town, and $10, a couple hours, and a special trip later, I had this sheet of perfectly cut vinyl circles. And I know all of you guys who have got cry cuts or portrait or silhouette cutting machines are laughing at me right now, but I don't have one yet, and I don't know if I'm going to get one anytime soon. But yeah, that obviously would have been great to have. Anyway, you can see that I have a nice mask of that vinyl on there. And of course, at about the same time that those perfectly cut masks arrived in my hot little hand, the mailman showed up with this. So yeah, you know, that's just the universe laughing at me, I guess. But the good news is I finally have it, and it's time to break it out and check it out and see what we think about how it works. Now, I haven't done anything more than taken it out of the package, and you can see that there's a little bit of assembly required. So that's what I'm going to do first. But I hope this thing is going to work as well as everybody seems to think it does. It is definitely clever, and whoever thought this thing up is to be congratulated for being smart, because this is just a standard thin wall roller bearing. I mean, you could find this thing in just about any bearing supplier catalog, and if you had the right stuff, you could probably make one of your own. But anyway, I'm not attempting to do that. I just want to get the job done. So let's see exactly how this is supposed to happen, if we can figure it out. There aren't any instructions, so I'm not really sure how to proceed. Honestly, I think it's pretty obvious that the blade goes into this tiny little bearing. You can see that thing has to pivot, and there's a tiny little bearing in there. But beyond that, I'm not really sure what's next. I kind of feel like these two little rods have to go into this slot, and that this is the knob that holds it in whatever position you slide it to. So I'm going to unscrew that thing and put it together. Hopefully that'll be the right thing to do.
Here we go.
Okay, so pretty straightforward. As I thought, that's how the blade assembly goes into this center section. And as you can see, the blade itself, which has got a very delicate, hopefully you can see that, has a very delicate, sharp little point on it. Just slips into the bottom of the adjuster here, and that's how you adjust the depth, is by just twiddling this thumb wheel right here. And I've just eyeballed it. I think this is probably going to be sort of a matter of trial and error, but what I've tried to do is just make it where the blade sticks out just a little bit from the surface of this black ring right here that it's going to rest on when I put it down on the material I'm going to cut. So let's just see what happens. You guys are watching me figure this out in real time, so hey, this could get entertaining. Now, I have adjusted it for the largest diameter, and from what I've seen on the Shadow Hobbies YouTube video, once you set the thing to the diameter you want, then all you do is hold the outer ring that stays stationary, and then just rotate the inner piece like I'm attempting to do. Now I think I don't know if I've got the thing set deep enough or too deep, but obviously the challenge is to rotate it without it moving around on you like that. And it looks like I was able to do that. And you can see there is a nicely cut circle, and I went all the way through the paper. So looks like I could go with a little shallower depth, but hey, that's, especially for me being as clumsy as I am, that's about as easy as cutting a circle is ever going to get. And it looks to me like it's pretty perfect. But obviously I didn't go all the way through the material, the backing material, all the way around, because it's not just coming out of there. So I'm going to pick at it here and see how easily it peels off, and then we'll try a smaller circle. Okay, so I went off camera and I tinkered a little bit, and I readjusted the depth of the cutter blade. And what I did is I just put the thing down. I backed it off, and then I put it down, and then started spinning it around and gradually lowering the blade until I started to feel a little bit of resistance, and so I knew at that point that it was cutting, and that worked pretty good. As you can see, I cut a few more circles and proved that it definitely will do one of the things that it's already become famous for, which is cut little tiny ones. I mean, look at that. That is a tiny little circle. I did learn, though, that if you just run the thing all the way over to the extreme end of this slot, that doesn't really do you any good, because what it did when I attempted that was, let's see if I can find it here, is it basically made, I don't even feel even be able to see it, that little gouge right there by the tip of my finger is what it did. So I just backed it off a little bit and then cut that little tiny circle that you can see I popped off and put over there. But I did learn pretty quickly that it will scoot around on you if you're not careful. Don't just depend on the mass of the thing to hold it in place, because it will scoot around on you a little bit, and you'll get what I got here, which is this little sliver off the edge of that circle where it got a little eccentric. So, but anyway, so far so good. Now, the next thing though, we've seen that it will cut circles that range, and this seems to have been a difficult answer to get with people who have posted about it online, is what's the actual range of circles that this little thing will cut? And you can see that it will go down to something like, that's about 1.6 millimeters. And I could have gone a little smaller, I'm sure. So let's say a 1 millimeter, millimeter and a half. I don't know why you'd ever need anything that small. Clear up to this one, where I had it at the opposite end of the adjustment range. That looks like about 50, 51 millimeters, something like that. So not bad, because I think that covers a pretty useful range that most of us are ever going to need, and certainly much easier than what I have used before. But here is the magic question. How do we cut a circle of a specific diameter? Because that's what I need to be able to do for this wheel. I need a circle that's exactly 32 millimeters in diameter, maybe just a skosh over. So the question is, how are we going to achieve that? Because there's not a scale. Okay, well, this is embarrassing because now that I've picked this thing up and flipped it around and looked at it from a different angle, yeah, there it is. There's the scale. So, good thing I didn't get too wrapped up in trying to figure out the mathematical relationship. Sometimes it's the simplest answer. So, let's see what happens. As you can see, it's got a little pointer on the end of that blue sticker that lines up with the marks on the scale there. So let's see what happens. I need a 16 millimeter radius. So let's see what happens. Okay, right there. You can see that is set at 16 millimeters. So let's cut a circle and see what we get. There we go. That's 31.75 millimeters. So it's pretty close. I mean, it's not exact, and I kind of wouldn't expect it to be, but it is pretty close. It's about a millimeter small. So I will just have to adjust a little bit and cut another one. Not too big of a deal though. Well, alrighty then. Here I am a while later. And you can see why I didn't record all this, because yeah, I had to cut a lot of circles to finally get a mask of the correct diameter for this wheel. And which is kind of silly given that I've got 8 of them over here on this sheet of black vinyl. I could have just stuck one on there, but I really wanted to go through this exercise and see how the thinner line circle cutter did. And I learned 2 things. One is that it is really difficult to get a circle of a very accurate diameter. And I'll show you in a second what I mean. Item number 2 is that I can cut a circle that is a lot rounder than the wheels on this kit are. Actually, I already knew the wheels were a little bit out of round because I discovered that when I assembled them, which is annoying, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, the point here is with this, with setting the diameter, I needed just a shade over 32 millimeters. And that should have been right there at that little mark directly after the tall one where you see the pointer set to. And based on what I have set there, that should actually give me a circle of right at 33 millimeters. So I had to fudge a little bit, and I just basically had to keep adjusting the pointer back and forth between the 2 hash marks that I knew I needed to be between, and cut a circle, measure it, test it out, see if it fit, adjust it a tiny bit more one way or the other until basically that iteration got me to where I needed to be. So now I've got the correct diameter set, and I'm annoyed and hungry, so I'm going to go eat lunch. Okay, well, just like almost everything at Rube Goldberg Enterprises, that was a little bit of an adventure. And of course took way longer to make a video of than it should have. But hey, look, you guys should know by now, if you're watching any of my stuff, that I really don't care how long it takes. I'm going to do my best to give you guys a realistic and complete picture of whatever the thing is that I'm reviewing. I just really get annoyed with these little 2-minute long video clips on YouTube where you see the thing, you see a quick shot of somebody using it, and then you see the result, and you get no real insight into what it's actually like to be an owner and a user. So anyway, the question is, what do I think of this circle cutter, and would I recommend it? It really kind of comes down to you know, how you I guess value your tools. If you're all about ease of use, then I think the circle cutter, the thinner line circle cutter, is a good solution. It is definitely easy to cut good circles, even for somebody as clumsy as me. So from that standpoint, definitely recommend it. Now, as far as ease of setting it up for use, yeah, it's kind of a fail, because it does just require so much trial and error to get a circle of a specific diameter. The fact is that this thing, which costs like $5, is much easier to set a diameter on that you can count on. Now, the problem is, especially with this one, and there are better designed ones. I think the Olfa one is probably better. Holding this thing correctly, trying to spin it around. This blade, I don't think, is as sharp as the blade on the thinner line thing. That's where this thing falls down. So, you know, they each kind of have their pluses and minuses. You will not be able to cut really small circles with this, so the thinner line thing is definitely better from that standpoint. And I should mention before I forget that as far as setting the size goes, George Taylor, who is one of the most talented gangsters on the SMCG pirate ship, has created a kind of a little jig that he uses to set the size on his, and it's basically just kind of got an L bracket and then a circle pattern underneath it that lets him place this down on his workbench and then just graphically dial in the size of the circle. So he completely ignores the scale. And rumor is that Shadow Hobbies is making a gadget kind of like that. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, again, whether or not it's worth the $50 or $60 that one is going to cost you, like I said, really depends on how you value your tools. Look, the truth is that for another $60 or $70, you can probably get yourself a relatively inexpensive vinyl cutting machine that you can plug into your computer and not only cut perfect circles, but lots of other things as well. So you just kind of have to look at the overall picture of what your usage is going to be and how you value your tools in order to decide if this specific thing is going to work for you. One other thing I forgot to mention, though, about the thinner line that is a disadvantage for things like cutting out round decals like insignia or something. If you're trying to cut out a decal perfectly without having any carrier film on it, or like if you want to cut out instrument face dials, this thing will cut small enough circles to do instrument face dials, but you can't position it correctly in order to be able to do that. So for stuff like that, you really kind of have to have a punch and die set that's got a clear top on it so that you can actually see where you're going to punch a hole. So, but the compass style cutter and an electronic cutting machine are not going to solve that problem either. So again, it just comes back to how you're going to use it and how you value it. So anyway, I hope that was all informative. I know this thing's been getting lots of attention, and I know there's quite a few of you guys out there who are wondering if it's really worth it to buy one. So hopefully that answers your question, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Take care and much love.